Ollie was called in to assist in investigating a bank robbery. See, the person that robbed the bank hadn't even bothered to wear a mask. They had a little sticker on their forehead in the shape of a blue star. Other than that, they just wore normal clothes. And that was kind of it. Now, they had escaped. They'd been very fast, and they got away, but they had them on the security cameras, and they're pretty sure that they knew exactly what to do, and so they'd gone and arrested this guy. And his name was Phil Jenkins. The problem was, as soon as Phil was arrested, he asked for his lawyer. And as soon as his lawyer came, they said, "You better release my client right now, because I have ironclad proof that Mr. Jenkins was not even in that part of the city at all at the time of the robbery. He was across town, and I can prove it." And so I said, "All right, well, what's the evidence?" And the officer said, "Well, that's the thing. The evidence it's pretty good. You see, at the same time of the robbery, Mr. Jenkins, they have a video. Mr. Jenkins is across town recording a live TV show." I said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah. Yeah, it's like a web broadcast. It was live. He was on TV with, however many thousands of people watching him. So even though we have him on video from the bank, there at the bank, robbing the bank, we also have him across town at a television studio where 30 people are happy to swear that he was there at the time, and we have time-stamped video of him talking about, in this case, he was talking about the best janitorial supplies. It's pretty niche, but whatever, I guess that's what his business is." Well, I thought about it for a while, and he was perplexed. How could he be in two places at the same time? I mean, one possibility certainly was that they were wrong about the video, and it showed somebody that just kind of looked like Phil Jenkins, but was really somebody else. And that was certainly what the attorney was saying is happening. So you got the wrong guy. I don't know who this person is, and I'll admit they look a lot like my client, but couldn't have been my client. My client was across town. And actually, they ended up having to let the guy go. Said, "All right." The police officer said, "Well, here's the deal. You can't leave town. You need to surrender your passport so we complete this investigation. But, yeah, we're going to release you on your own recognizance. But if we call, we need to pick up. And like I said, if you leave town, there'll be a bench warrant out for your arrest." So Ollie started doing some research, trying to figure out what he could figure out about this Phil Jenkins character. He found the guy's information about his business, about the cleaning business, and he'd been on TV before talking about this kind of a thing. He was kind of new in town, though. It's only really been, from what he could tell, from all I could tell, he came to Baltimore a handful of years ago, like 2 years, maybe 2.5 years ago, and was pretty active and open and in a public way and showing up and writing letters to the editor starting right then. Before that, there's not a whole lot of record of where he was from. I did more and more searching and more and more searching. More and more searching, came up empty, empty, empty. There's got to be something here. I said, you know, it's just not coming to me. I gotta go take a break. So Ollie got off the computer, got up, and took a walk around the park nearby. As he walked and he thought, he looked at all the trees. And he thought, you know, those trees all look the same. But if I was up close enough, I bet I'd be able to tell. Could I recognize one oak tree from another oak tree? He was just thinking things like that. He got halfway up the hill, and he stopped. I said, oh, I've got it. He turned around and headed back to the police station. And he changed around his research a little bit and started to look into birth records. Now, Phil Jenkins isn't exactly an unusual name, but there are only so many Phil Jenkins born in any given year. They had the age of this Phil Jenkins. So I started doing a nationwide search of birth records. And that's when he came upon exactly what he needed to find. He printed out the page and took it right to the investigating officer. And as soon as the officer saw it, he got on the phone and gave some addresses for immediate arrests. Well, about an hour and a half later, Phil Jenkins was back in the interrogation room with his attorney. The attorney said, I don't know what you're doing dragging us in here again. This is harassment. I'm preparing a lawsuit. You're harassing my client, and we don't have to tolerate it. And I said, yeah, well, you better go ahead and calm down on that, because the bad news is we're on to your little game, Phil. Phil didn't say anything. And the lawyer said, you better have some hard evidence here. So I'm writing all this down. It's all going into the lawsuit. And I said, well, before you start making up a lawsuit, you better ask Phil when the last time he heard from Wallace was. At the mention of Wallace, Phil's eyes got wide. And the lawyer said, Wallace. I said, that's right, Wallace. Phil said, Wallace is here. I said, Wallace is just a few doors down. He's telling us everything. So you might as well start talking too. And this lawyer said, Phil, don't say a thing. Don't say a single word. This just got a lot harder if I understand what's going on here. And I said, all right, if that's the way you want to play it, that's the way you want to play it. And he walked out of the room and walked down a few doors down and opened up another investigation room. And there was Phil's identical twin, Wallace. Wallace was no hardened criminal. So Wallace was breaking down. He said, I just was trying to help my brother out. He taught me all about the cleaning products. He said I didn't have to do anything. I just had to go on TV, say it was him, and talk about cleaning products. He didn't even tell me what was going on until later. I don't know, man. I was just trying to help my brother out. I didn't mean to be a part of all of this. And I said, all right, just calm down. We'll get a confession going, and if you really didn't know what was going on, you'll probably be all right. I closed the door, and the officer said, Ollie, you cracked another one for us. How did you think about twins? I said, well, the thing is, first I thought about oak trees. And that was Ollie in the case of the bank robbery.